Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Blake? What? Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is here. Welcome back, everyone, for more SPTV, where every day is a great day. Not to be in a cult. Balake is not the only one who wants to go to war. Tom DeVocht is moving forward with his Indict David Miscavige initiative, and he's writing about this over on his Substack. And I want to share with you the most recent post that he has put up about this. Here is Tom DeVocht's Substack. I will, if the moderators can paste the link to this in the live chat, please feel free. I'll pin a comment with a link to this, but if you just search Tom DeVocht's Substack, you will find it right here. Okay, so let's just get right into it because I'm in a little bit of a time crunch myself right now. So let's go. Okay, here's what he says. The case against David Miscavige is not just about what he did. It is about what he built. Your story is just the start. The pattern it proves is what makes it criminal. We all have our individual stories. Some of us were personally beaten or saw someone else beaten by him. Some of us were forced into abortions or helped him enforce them or witnessed it. Some of us were confined, broken, disconnected, or left behind. Some of us have family members who will no longer talk to us because we were declared. That's declared a suppressive person, which is sort of Scientology's equivalent of being excommunicated. Yes, some of our stories go back 5, 10, 20 years or more. So it's reasonable to ask, is it too late? Do our stories still matter or have any legal merit today? The answer is yes, they do. Of course, David Miscavige and his operatives want you to think otherwise. First and foremost, tell your story. What did David Miscavige do to you directly? Or what did you personally witness him do? Expose who he really is. Let's show the world his true character behind the vanity shots, the staged events, and the scripted applause. Expose, expose, expose. Just keep it true, keep it factual, make it legally defensible. But legally, this is not just about making noise or going public or exposing him. It is about building a case. And the case against David Miscavige is this. Our eyewitness testimony together proves the existence of a criminal system designed and maintained by one man that is still fully operational right now, today. I want to quickly mention that in one of Tom's earlier blog posts, he mentioned that the website for this initiative is almost completed. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. This is not just Tom encouraging people to tell stories and eventually, one day a prosecutor will take notice or something like this. There does seem to be a much more coordinated effort to gather information into a centralized, easily accessible, easily reviewable place and format. And I'm interested to see what happens here. Okay, he goes, the case against David Miscavige is this. Oh no, I already read that. Okay, good. What the law actually cares about. The goal is not just to prove that David Miscavige harmed you, me, or our families in the past. It is to prove that David Miscavige created a structure, an organization and system of abuse that he continues to control today and that he uses for his own power, protection, and personal benefit. This is how the law holds leaders accountable. Command responsibility. Superiors are criminally liable if they knew or should have known about crimes committed under their authority and failed to stop them. Okay, I want to say something really quick. A lot of declarations that have been filled out by some of David Miscavige's most senior officers are going to come back and bite him in the butt. There are many affidavits here. Sometimes these affidavits, these declarations are just submitted to media organizations in response to articles that are being written. These aren't, I'm not even talking about declarations or affidavits submitted in lawsuits, but there are many declarations and affidavits that have been submitted to media organizations, praising David Miscavige, giving him credit for micromanaging the smallest things in Scientology. I couldn't believe that he was so informed and knowledgeable and active in the goings on of my organization, or just little old me. And he knows everything, and he's everywhere, and he inspects everything, and he gives advice on everything. There's affidavits like that. And then there's other affidavits like, what? David Miscavige, the ecclesiastical leader, he's too busy to have anything to do with this. He's too busy to know anything about this. And so, anyway, I'm just mentioning this because it's interesting. Scientologists will lie under oath about anything to protect David Miscavige and Scientology, but they can't keep track of their own lies. And they're not lying when they say he micromanages everything. And that speaks directly to what Tom is talking about here. When Tom says superiors are criminally liable if they knew or should have known about crimes committed under their authority and failed to stop them. The famous case of Lisa McPherson in Clearwater, Florida, a Scientologist who died while under the care of Scientology. What David Miscavige hid from the authorities is that he was personally involved in the supervision of her auditing. He was personally, as they would say in Scientology, he was personally CSing her folder and her case personally. Part of the evidence that Marty Rathman and others destroyed in Lisa McPherson's auditing files was any evidence that David Miscavige was personally involved in the supervising of Lisa McPherson's case. A perfect example of what Tom is referencing here. Okay, superiors are criminally liable if they knew or should have known about crimes committed under their authority and failed to stop them. David Miscavige designed and built the system and maintains total control to this day. The structure of disconnection, confinement, intimidation, and forced labor remains fully intact. And it's all still controlled by one man, David Miscavige, for his own benefit. He punishes dissenters, suppresses complaints, and reaps the benefits actively as we speak. Just look at the continued harassment of former members. The who is domains. That is a reference to all of many of the websites created about former members, such as like, who is Tom DeVocht? Or I'm the only one who doesn't have a who is Aaron Smith-Levin. And do you want to know why? It's because I thought I was being really clever. And I went and I bought who is Aaron Smith-Levin. And in my cleverness, I forgot to buy AaronSmithlevin.com. Scientology was like, jackpot, we got him. So AaronSmithlevin.com is a website created by the Church of Scientology it's a hate website about me. But I have whoisAaronSmithlevin.com. And there you go. A victory of nothing. Okay. The who is domains, recent attacks on Mark Headley's business, attacks on our community in an attempt to break us apart. It's all part of the same machine. A system David Miscavige built, a system that is still in motion, and a system David Miscavige hides behind, quietly pulling the strings while claiming immunity from the consequences. He pretends to be unaware, distant from it all, while he gets off on it. And that's why your story is still legally relevant today. Continuing criminal enterprise applies to organizers or managers of an ongoing system involving repeated criminal acts, even if they don't commit each act themselves. Scientology's C organization is still operating as a closed, coercive labor force under David Miscavige's command. The International Golden Era Productions base, even more so. The systemic abuses, including forced abortions, physical and psychological confinement, retaliation, continue today. They are part of the system, the structure David Miscavige built. David Miscavige remains at the top. He built it, he runs it, he profits from it, and he uses it to protect himself. He even admits that he is the sole leader. Ask yourself, who are the board members of the organizations where David Miscavige is listed as chairman? Have you thought about that? Look at David Miscavige's own website, the RTC website, the Scientology websites. Look up the past records of those same websites and see who is missing, who is featured on those websites now but himself. Where are the internal controls, independent oversight, and governing bodies that corporate law is designed to require? In most organizations, there are board members, there are separation of roles, there are audits, there are accountability mechanisms. In David Miscavige's world, there is nothing. Just him at the top of every structure, answering to no one and hiding behind paper boards that don't meet, don't object, and don't exist in practice. David Miscavige controls everything. Conspiracy. If multiple people commit crimes as part of a coordinated plan and one person directs, enables, or enforces it, they are all liable. David Miscavige personally directs fair game. He personally oversees every Office of Special Affairs operations. He orders and protects the system that enforces silence, isolation, and punishment for noncompliance. This is not a theory. It is a visible fact. The conspiracy is active. RICO. The racketeering, I forget what RICO stands for. Racketeering. Oh, crap. I'm going to look it up here real quick. The Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Okay. Okay. What? I just messed something up here. Okay. Here we go. RICO holds leaders accountable for managing an enterprise that commits a pattern of illegal acts, even if it appears legitimate on the surface. David Miscavige's Scientology, which has nothing to do with its original doctrine, claims to be a religion while functioning as a closed retaliatory system of control and personal enrichment. Forced labor, coerced disconnections, psychological abuse, obstruction of justice, all of it continues under the same chain of command we've been screaming about for decades. It is happening right now. The predicate crimes did not stop. The pattern did not end. The system is still in place and is still controlled by and for one man, David Miscavige. And that makes him prosecutable today. What about the statute of limitations? Here's the key. Individual crimes might expire. Okay, so individual crimes might expire. In other words, the statute of limitations on individual crimes might expire, but still tell those stories, expose the rat. But criminal systems don't. Statutes of limitations on criminal systems do not expire when they are still running. Under federal law, conspiracy, the statute of limitations does not begin until the conspiracy ends. That is fascinating. David Miscavige's system and his policies have never ended. RICO, as long as one predicate act occurred within the past 10 years, and many have, all connected acts are admissible. Continuing criminal enterprise, still operating equals still prosecutable. Command responsibility, ongoing harm equals ongoing liability. So even if your abuse happened 20 years ago, your story can still help bring him down, because the structure that caused it and that David Miscavige designed, built, and operates is still alive and well today. Why your story is critical. Our stories prove that David Miscavige designed and built it and what his intent behind it was. Our stories prove the system is still in place. No, and how it works. There's just some typos here. When stacked together, when our stories are stacked together, they show intent, design, and continuity, witnessed firsthand. This wasn't disorganized abuse. It was systemic policy. David Miscavige's policy, modified and enforced to empower and protect one man, himself. This was not a failure of leadership. It was the dismantling of leadership so that he could rule alone. Yeah, that's totally true. And it is still happening. It's still happening today, just like it was 5, 10, 15, or 20 years ago. And that makes it legally relevant right now. The whole may have been renamed. The international base may be hidden. In other words, like the operations of the international base have sort of been decentralized and moved elsewhere. But the threats, the isolation, the disconnections, the cover-ups, the forced silence, the suppressive person declares, and disconnections are still coming. All proof of the system. Real, enforced, all Miscavige. Final word. This isn't just about getting justice for the past. It's about ending the criminal system David Miscavige created and still controls for his own gain and protection. An illegal criminal enterprise, still hurting people, still shielded by legal protections he does not deserve, still run by one man from the top down. He did not just commit crimes personally. He built a machine to keep doing while claiming he's not. Okay. He built a machine to keep. Yeah, that's what it says. Okay, and he is still flipping the switches. That's what we can prove. That's what the law recognizes. That's how we indict David Miscavige. Another final word. Shift the focus from Scientology to Miscavige. Why? Because Scientology is dead. Before I keep going, I'll just comment on this. I'm not entirely sure how to interpret that sentence, this paragraph, this section. But one might interpret it to mean that ex-Scientologists doing anti-Scientology activism or speaking out publicly should shift the focus of the criticism and their activism specifically towards David Miscavige and not on Scientology. That is how I interpret that. I don't agree with that sentiment. I'm sure many of the people will have thoughts and comments about that. But let's see what Tom says about this. Shift the focus from Scientology to Miscavige. Why? Because Scientology is dead. David Miscavige is alive and he is hiding behind Scientology. David Miscavige is protected by Scientology. Let David Miscavige bring Scientology into it if he wants. It's more proof that we need that he can provide. It's more proof we need and he can provide. I'm almost sure that's what that was supposed to say. We want David Miscavige naked and exposed. Easy now. I don't want to see that. I don't want to have to think about that. Okay. Take him out and the criminal system he runs falls. But you see what I mean? Take him out and the criminal system he runs falls. But he is saying Scientology is already dead. Okay. And I guess just a thought on it. The reason, one of the easiest, hold on one sec. I got people texting me. One of the reasons I disagree that everyone needs to shift their focus from Scientology to Miscavige is that everyone's intention doesn't have to be the same thing. Everyone's goal doesn't have to be the same thing. Anyway, I'm a little distracted because I have a hard stop here coming up and I just want to finish this. So let's keep going. Okay. Here's another reason. If you're not attacking, okay, here's another reason to shift focus from Scientology to Miscavige. If you are not attacking someone's beliefs, just pointing to the man who hijacked them, they are more likely to listen. Okay. He's talking about they Scientologists. I don't do all of my content, for example, to reach Scientologists who are still in the bubble and who are still true believers. I do create my content with the intention of reaching people who are inside the bubble, but who are under the radar. They're already mentally out of Scientology, but they, for life reasons, don't feel they can actually leave. Anyway, I'll keep going. Okay. Even current Scientologists, even celebrities, even family members, they already know there's something wrong. They might be more likely to join the campaign to remove David Miscavige than to join a campaign that condemns their faith, even if we see the two as the same. We need to actively infiltrate Scientology at all levels and invite them to help bring David Miscavige to justice. Pull new eyewitnesses out. Corroborate the new with the old. Prove the system, prove the man, take him down, collapse the system once and for all. So one thought that I have on this is I already know from firsthand experience and knowledge that current Scientologists who are under the radar do very much like and appreciate and value the content that gets done exposing Scientology and its abusive policies and practices. And the under the radar folks don't necessarily care whether you want to blame David Miscavige or L. Ron Hubbard for those. It really doesn't matter because the result is the same. Scientology is today what it is today, regardless of which individual man is most responsible in present day. Just my thoughts on that. Okay. So also in order to bring out new witnesses, it would be good enough just to bring out the people who are already under the radar and already agree with us, just aren't able to be public about it. We don't have to convince the minds of true believers that they should join our fight in order to have a lot of new eyewitnesses. So just another thought on that. Okay, P.S. This approach is not unprecedented. When powerful or protected organizations seem untouchable, history shows that the only way to bring them down is to go straight for the individual at the top. That's true, especially when they've committed crimes outside the shield of the institution. Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel. These are all examples. Charles Manson, going after Charles Manson and not just the family. Going after Jeffrey Epstein and not just the network. Going after Harvey Weinstein and not just Hollywood. Going after Elizabeth Holmes and not just her company Theranos. Going after Bernie Madoff and not just Wall Street. These are great examples. Going after R. Kelly and not just the industry. Going after Alex Jones and not just free speech. Very, very interesting examples. And no doubt, God, I don't know. I guess a question that I would ask Tom would be, even if you bring down David Miscavige and get him indicted, sure, of course, that would have incredibly disastrous effects on the organization that is Scientology. I would argue Scientology and all of us who are exposing Scientology, David Miscavige and all of us who are already working to expose Scientology are also already having disastrous effects on Scientology. I would make an argument that if you want to keep having disastrous effects on Scientology, we could very much keep doing what we're all doing and not change anything. I would also argue that even if we changed nothing, that if we changed nothing, it would not lead to David Miscavige being indicted. That if we want to indict David Miscavige, we want to make that happen for sure. We do probably have to change something. And so, but I guess what I'm arguing is that You can take down the organization without taking down Miscavige. You can take down Miscavige and the organization. You could also take down Miscavige and the organization would still survive. But I think no matter what, Scientology continues to contract and die and lose members, even if it can manage to squeeze more money out of its current members for a certain amount of time. I guess what I'm saying is I truly believe Scientology is dying. I believe the dwindling spiral of Scientology cannot be reversed. I believe that the collective efforts of everybody accelerates that dwindling spiral of Scientology. I do believe that if we really want to focus in on David Miscavige, that's probably the only way to get him indicted. That's why I fully support the Indict David Miscavige initiative. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't believe that the only way to bring about the eventual demise of the Church of Scientology, if that is the goal, like I'm not, Tom, I believe you're saying that is the goal, but I'm not sure that I agree that the only way to do that is to get David Miscavige indicted. And yet, don't get me wrong, I fully support getting David Miscavige indicted. But I guess the reason why I'm being clear about that is because I certainly am not comfortable telling everybody that they should stop talking about Scientology and just focus on David Miscavige, because I think that would be, you don't have to choose one or the other. You can do both at the same time. That's how I feel about it. How do you guys feel about it? Okay, we'll go through some starred comments because unfortunately I'm making my guests wait while I finish up this video real quick. Anon, I'm hopeful that he is indicted, keeping fingers crossed. Eat more pizza now. Lock him up. Ren again. So little Davey micromanaging is coming back to bite him in the hiney. Joyful English for adults. David, no mention of the systemic abuse as originated by LRH. I would say because L. Ron Hubbard is dead, you can't indict him or prosecute him. So I certainly understand focusing on Miscavige instead of Hubbard as far as, indictments go. Parker Osman, we must utilize black propaganda techniques to destroy the reputation of opponents and critics. Quote unquote, paraphrased from internal Guardian Office policy letters. See also fair game policy. Muds Kipper, no mention of the children. I wonder why all those people who think they left a cult still work so hard to cover up child SA, because that is all this nonsense is doing. I would argue that Tom encouraging people to tell their stories and everyone to tell their stories, it includes all the child SA stuff. I know there is general dissatisfaction in not seeing the generation of high-level Scientology leaders, ex-Scientology leaders, former Scientology leaders, giving a lot of details about their knowledge of cover-up of child SA, because that's a uniquely hot topic to prosecute. But I think there's time for that. I think we will see plenty of that. That's my hope. That is my belief. Ruth O'Hare, I'm not sure at this point that it's possible to take down David Miscavige without destroying the Church of Scientology, which isn't a bad thing. I totally agree. It's Always Something says, how do you separate the bad done under L. Ron Hubbard policies by L. Ron Hubbard and the extra bad done by David Miscavige? Harm is harm. Where is personal enrichment? He hides in church apartments and will be there until the death. I don't know that there is a differentiation. I think the only differentiation is one of those people you can prosecute because he's alive, and the other one you can't because he's dead. It's the little things. Anti-Miscavigers still love L. Ron Hubbard. They have yet to get past the man himself to truly leave Scientology. We don't have to be Scientologists. There are other institutions out there that do auditing already. Northern Girl. Will David Miscavige just claim that these policies are in fact L. Ron Hubbard policies and not his own? I don't think it matters whose policies they are, as long as we're talking about crimes committed. You cannot commit an actual crime and say it's okay because it's a religious policy. Abigail, yes, but that is assuming that removing David Miscavige will cripple Scientology, which I don't think is true. I think it would be one of many things that would okay, is it even possible that someone could replace Miscavige, who wants to make Scientology a kinder, gentler, more legally compliant version of itself? Theoretically, in a vacuum, it's possible, but in reality, I don't think it's possible. But why did I say that? Oh, because we're talking about whether removing Miscavige could cripple Scientology. Miscavige is all the BS that Miscavige spins to everyone largely is what keeps people in. Also his reign of terror and control. But it's like, if you relax that control, though, people would leave Scientology because they would be able to see the scam and see the con. Anyway, It's the little things. This cult is so toxic, you just know they will create a new David Miscavige anyway. Think about it. Family is not important. Your allies are in the air. Scientology is working according to plan. All right, everybody, that is all on this for now. I think I'm going to do another one later today, but I'm going to be busy for a little bit. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me. Thank you, as always, to everybody who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right